Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Lamp in the Library. I'm Graham.
And I'm Kim.
And as we approach the festive season, we're going to be talking about some holiday reads.
Yes, this episode I'm going to be sharing a few holiday reading recommendations with Graham because he's more reticent about getting into the holiday spirit, whereas I am in full elf mode. So these holiday reads are for people who maybe aren't quite as full of holiday cheer as us elves. And after I suggest the books, Graham's going to pick which one he thinks that he would read.
Yeah, just to reiterate, I'm not a Grinch by any means. I certainly see the great value of having a festival during the darkest time of the year. But I don't necessarily get into the Christmas spirit in terms of reading books. You know, there's enough music and movies out there to satisfy any Christmas needs. So this will be interesting.
Yeah, whereas I've read a few holiday books over the time, and I think that it's a great way to get into the spirit. So my first recommendation for a holiday read is this Truman Capote collection of short stories. It has A Christmas Memory, One Christmas, and The Thanksgiving Visitor. So you can even start to read it for, if you're American Thanksgiving. And these stories are very much based on Truman Capote's childhood, and they're sort of like these childhood reminiscence of Christmas and Thanksgiving and a beloved family figure he had who was a big inspiration to him. But also it shows, the difficulties of the holiday season. There is definitely some bittersweet quality to the stories. So it's not necessarily all like, yay, Christmas, everything's happy. It's more looking at some of the family dynamics that come up during holiday time, and definitely told in a Truman Capote style. So, it's not too long, and there's 3 different stories, so you can just read one or read all 3. And so that's my first recommendation, this Truman Capote holiday collection.
Oh, that's interesting. I've read a couple of Truman Capote's books. Breakfast at Tiffany's, and what was the true crime one?
In Cold Blood.
In Cold Blood, yes, of course, yeah.
So you're familiar with his style.
I am, yeah.
Yeah. So the next book I have to recommend is a non-fiction Christmas book, and it's called A Christmas Cornucopia, and it's this really wonderful cover. And I found this a really fascinating and fun read because it has facts about a lot of the different Christmas traditions that exist and things that people do for the Christmas holiday season. And one of the reasons why I actually find it really interesting too is that it goes in depth with some of the traditions. I mean, a lot of people will just casually say, oh, we just do that because it's from pagan tradition. Oh, that's just taken from pagan traditions. Whereas this goes much more into depth where a lot of the traditions and even the date, what went into thinking of what the date would be for Christmas. And I think a lot of people would be surprised at some of the stuff you can learn in this book. And it's just, each little chapter is just a different tradition and learning about it. So this is A Christmas Cornucopia by Mark Forsyth. Next, I have a very short read, and it's The Fir Tree by Hans Christian Andersen, and it's in this beautiful edition that has, I'm just going to open it up, with really lovely illustrations also within it. And it's a Hans Christian Andersen tale about a fir tree that's selected to then be a Christmas tree. And, it's a bit of a folk tale that has, again, some sadness to it. So for those who aren't looking for Christmas tales that are all super happy, Hans Christian Andersen's The Fir Tree.
Oh, I like how the cover design on that one.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Who's the publisher?
This publisher is, I actually have another one of theirs, which is a version of the Nutcracker, which is also really beautiful. 10 Speed Press is the publisher of it. And I like to actually put it out as a holiday decoration because of how beautiful it is. Same with the Christmas Cornucopia. And then lastly, for those who want maybe something that goes with the tradition of Christmas, but without any real Christmas vibes. There are these wonderful Christmas ghost stories that are just ghost stories, because it used to be a tradition that Christmas would involve sharing ghost stories. And these are really wonderful short stories that you can, read aloud to people or read to yourself. And they are from the publisher Biblioasis in Canada. And they all feature these really wonderful cover illustrations by the artist Seth. Thoughts?
Thoughts? If I was to pick one of these books?
You have to pick one.
Well, I have to go with the Biblioasis ghost story books. I'm a fan of Seth's work. I'm a fan of ghost stories, and I feel that ghost stories at Christmas wouldn't overwhelm me with Christmasness.
Okay.
And I wouldn't get tired of it.
Okay, what about the other three that are actually involved the holiday?
I really like the art design on the fir tree book. I do like Truman Capote, but I think I would pick the Christmas Cornucopia just to get some insight and history into, the traditions that we celebrate and why.
Yeah, that's a
where
really
it
good
comes from.
question.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Ooh, the winner. So, Graham, what are you actually reading right now during this last bit of November?
Right now I'm reading this book. It's called A Peculiar Peril by VanderMeer. And I've read several other of his works, but this book is different in that it's more for a YA audience. And I'm about halfway done, and this book is itself halfway through a 2-volume series. It's a giant book, but I'm moving through it quite quickly. It's a lot of fun. It's like a portal fantasy. It's kind of like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe if it was much stranger, and he just packs it full of wonderful strangeness. So we'll see how this goes at the end, what it all adds up to. It's like very maximalist in that it's kind of overwhelming how much stuff he's packing into this book. But so far, a breezy and fun read.
What do you think is the difference between his writing when it's designated for a YA audience as opposed to adult fiction, his adult fiction? Is there a difference? Or?
Yeah, his adult fiction seems to be suffused with this kind of melancholy strangeness, whereas this is just kind of strangeness with a much more humorous bent.
Oh, okay, interesting. I'll be interested to hear what your final thoughts on it are.
And what are you reading?
So at the moment, I just started this today. It's called Exactly As You Are. The Life and Faith of Mr. Rogers by Shea, Tuttle. And I just picked it up this morning, and I'm already just a little over 50 pages in because I'm really, really enjoying it. Mr. Rogers fan. And I wanted to read a little bit more about how his faith played a role in his work, because Mr. Rogers was ordained in the Presbyterian Church, and he did see his work through his television programming as part of his ministry. So I was sort of curious to read a bit more of that, but it's also actually providing a really great biography of him in general that goes beyond like the documentary that came out and stuff, and just, yeah, so far it's also very feel good, which, I think we can all use a bit of at this time.
Well, thanks so much for spending some time with us. We're about to go into the snow,
Yes.
Get into that holiday spirit maybe, let Cooper burn off some energy.
Yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel below and hit the bell notification so you know when there's a new video. Next week we'll be back and I will be sharing some more holiday reading recommendations, and these ones will be a little more full on Christmas spirity, and we'll see if Graham is interested in any of those.
Keep well.
Keep reading.